The weigh-in happens 24 hours before the fight. Madison Square Garden. Press conference room. Cameras everywhere. Reporters. Photographers. The smell of sweat and cologne and anticipation. Two fighters standing on a scale. Two fighters about to determine who's heavier. Who's ready? Who's scared? Mike Tyson steps on first. 218 pounds. Solid muscle. He steps off. No expression. No performance. Just gets weighed and moves aside. Then Marvis Frazier steps up. 6 feet 1 inch. 210 pounds. Good shape. Athletic. Professional. Son of Joe Frazier. Legacy in his blood. Pressure in every step. The stare down happens after. Standard procedure. Face to face. Eye to eye. The moment before the violence. The moment when fighters size each other up. Look for fear. Look for weakness. Look for anything that says, "You're not ready for this." Marvis looks at Tyson. Doesn't look away. Doesn't blink. Keeps his face neutral. Professional. But then he speaks. Loud enough for the microphones to catch. Loud enough for everyone to hear. "You don't scare me. My father fought Ollie. You're nothing compared to what he faced." It's a good line. Delivered well. Invoking history. Invoking legacy. Invoking the name that carries weight in every boxing conversation. Ali. Muhammad Ali. The greatest. The man Joe Frazier fought 3 times. The rivalry that defined an era. Marvis is saying, "I come from greatness. I understand greatness. You might scare other people, but I've seen real greatness. And you're not it. The cameras love it. The reporters love it. This is narrative. This is drama. This is the son of a legend standing up to the new monster. This is David versus Goliath. This is everything boxing sells." Tyson says nothing. Doesn't react. Doesn't change expression. Just looks at Marvis. 5 seconds. 6. 7. Then turns and walks away in a response. No comeback. No trash talk. Just silence. Some people interpret the silence as respect. Some interpret it as intimidation working. Some interpret it as Tyson having nothing to say because Marvis got in his head. But the people who know Tyson understand. The silence isn't respect or fear or confusion. The silence is decision. Tyson just decided something. Made a choice. Set an intention. And 24 hours from now, everyone will understand what that silence meant. Joe Frazier sits in a locker room with his son that it's an hour before the fight. Madison Square Garden. The same arena where Joe fought Ollie. Where he won. Where he lost. Where he became legend. This building has his history in its walls. His blood in its canvas. His name in its record books. Now his son is about to fight here. About to add to that legacy. Or end it. Joe watches Marvis warm up. Shadow boxing. Loose. Ready. Confident. Joe sees himself in those movements. Sees the training. Sees the genetics. Sees the Frazier in him. But he also sees something else. Something that worries him. Something he can't quite name, but feels in his chest like weight. Marvis is ready for a fight. Trained for a fight. Prepared for a fight. But Tyson isn't a fight. Tyson is something else. And Joe knows the difference because he lived it. Fought men who were fights. Fought men who were something else. Ollie was something else. Foreman was something else. Those weren't just fights. Those were wars. Survival tests. Moments when you learned what you were made of. And watching tape of Tyson, Joe sees it. That same quality. That same otherness. Not just a fighter. Something more. Something primal. Something that makes regular fighting rules feel insufficient that he wants to tell Marvis. Wants to warn him. Wants to say, this isn't like other fights. This isn't about technique or strategy or game plans. This is about surviving something that wants to erase you. But he doesn't. Because how do you tell your son that? How do you undermine his confidence an hour before the biggest fight of his life? How do you say, "You're not ready for this"? Nobody's ready for this. Not even me. Joe says nothing. Just watches. Just worries. Just hopes his son is tougher than his fears. The ring introductions happen at 9:47 p.m. Madison Square Garden is packed. 20,000 people. Every seat filled. Standing room only. The energy is electric. Anticipation. Violence about to happen. Two men about to hurt each other for sport. For glory. For legacy, the announcer calls Marvis first. Fighting out of Philadelphia, Pennsylvania. Undefeated. 16 wins, 0 losses. The son of the legendary Joe Frazier. Marvis Frazier. The crowd cheers. Good reception. Respect. They know the name. Know the history. Know what it means to carry that weight. Marvis walks to the center of the ring. Raises his gloves. Acknowledges the crowd. Looks confident. Looks ready. Looks like a fighter who believes he can win. Then the announcer calls Tyson. Fighting out of Catskill, New York. Undefeated. 27 wins, 0 losses, 25 by knockout. The youngest heavyweight champion in history. Iron Mike Tyson. The crowd explodes. Different energy. Not respect. Fear. Excitement. The anticipation of violence. Of destruction. Of watching something dangerous do what it does. Tyson walks to the center. No robe. No ceremony. Just black trunks and gloves. Simple. Direct. Efficient. He doesn't acknowledge the crowd. Doesn't raise his gloves. Just stands there. Waiting. The referee calls them together. Center ring. Final instructions. Rules. Guidelines. Things that are supposed to matter. Protect yourself at all times. Obey my commands. Touch gloves. Let's have a clean fight. They touch gloves. Brief contact. Professional courtesy. Marvis looks at Tyson. Eye to eye. One more time. One more chance to show he's not intimidated. That yesterday's words weren't just talk. That he meant it. Tyson looks back. Still no expression. Still that silence. But something in his eyes. Something that wasn't there yesterday. Something activated. Something ready. They return to their corners. 30 seconds until the bell. 30 seconds until everything changes. Joe Frazier sits ringside. Front row. Close enough to touch the canvas. Close enough to hear everything. Close enough to see his son's face. To see if fear is there. To see if doubt is there. He sees neither. Sees confidence. Sees readiness. Sees a fighter prepared to fight. And that's what worries him most. Because his son is prepared for a fight. But what's about to happen isn't a fight. It's an execution. And Joe knows it. Feels it. Dreads it. The bell rings. Marvis comes out orthodox. Textbook stance. Left foot forward. Right hand back. Guard up. Mobile. Exactly how he's been taught. Exactly how his father fought. He throws a jab. Testing distance. Feeling Tyson out. Smart boxing. Professional boxing. The right way to start. Tyson doesn't react to the jab. Just walks forward. Doesn't even slip it. Just eats it on the gloves. Absorbs it. Keeps coming. Marvis circles left. Away from Tyson's power hand. Standard strategy. Keep moving. Make Tyson chase. Tire him out. Solve the puzzle. But Tyson isn't chasing. He's closing distance. Cutting off the ring. Each step deliberate. Purposeful. Patient. Not rushing. Not wild. Just walking. Just stalking. 0.5 seconds in. Marvis throws a combination. 1-2. Jab. Straight right. Both connect. Both land clean. Tyson's head snaps back slightly from the right hand. For a moment, Marvis feels it. Feels like he's in the fight. Feels like his game plan is working. Feels like maybe he can do this. Then Tyson's head comes back to center. No damage visible. No effect. Just a head that moved and returned. Like the punch was nothing. Like it didn't matter. And Tyson keeps walking forward. 0.6 seconds in. Tyson closes the distance. Gets inside Marvis's range. Too close for jabs. Too close for straight punches. In that range where only hooks and uppercuts work. Where boxing becomes fighting. Where technique becomes violence. Marvis tries to tie up. Clinch. Reset. Create space. Smart move. Professional move. But Tyson doesn't let him. Doesn't let him breathe. Doesn't let him think. Just starts throwing. Left hook to the body. The sound is immediate. Wet. Heavy. The sound of a fist displacing organs. Marvis grunts. Can't help it. That punch hurt. Deep hurt. Internal hurt. Right uppercut to the chin. Marvis's head snaps back. Vision blurs. Legs wobble. Not down. Not out. But compromised balance gone. Defense gone. Survival mode activated. 0.7 seconds in. Tyson throws the finishing sequence. It's not one punch. It's a combination. But it happens so fast it feels like one continuous impact. Left hook, right hook, left uppercut. 3 punches, 3 different angles, all landing clean, all landing devastating. Marvis's mouthguard flies out. Not from one punch, from all of them, from the accumulated impact, from his jaw moving in ways it shouldn't move, from his brain rattling inside his skull. His legs stop working. Not a decision, not a choice. They just stop. The signals from his brain aren't reaching them anymore. Or they're reaching them, but the muscles aren't responding. Overloaded. Shut down. Survival mechanism. Marvis falls. Not backward. Not to the side. Straight down. Knees first. Then face. Hitting the canvas with that sound that every boxer dreads. The sound of unconscious impact. The sound of someone not protecting their fall. Someone not there anymore. 0.8 seconds. Opening bell to knockdown. 8 seconds. The referee doesn't count. Doesn't need to. One look at Marvis, and he knows. Waves his arms. Fight over. Knockout. Done. 0.8 seconds. Joe Frazier doesn't move from his seat. The arena is chaos. People standing, screaming, reacting. Some in shock, some in excitement, some in horror. The full spectrum of human response to violence witnessed. But Joe just sits, staring at his son, at Marvis lying on the canvas, at the doctor checking him, at the moment when legacy died, not Marvis's legacy, that might recover, might rebuild. He's young. He's talented. He could come back from this. But the Frazier legacy, the idea that being Joe Frazier's son meant something in the ring, that genetics and training and history gave you armor, that you could face anything because your father faced everything. 0.8 seconds proved that wrong. 8 seconds showed that legacy doesn't matter. History doesn't matter. Genetics don't matter. Not against Tyson. Not against something that exists outside the normal hierarchy of boxing. Joe fought Ollie 3 times. 14 brutal rounds in Manila. The thriller. The most savage fight in boxing history. Both men giving everything. Both men leaving pieces of themselves in that ring. Both men permanent changed by what they did to each other. But those were fights. Real fights. Back and forth. Testing. Questioning. Answering. Violence, yes. Danger, yes. But fights nonetheless. What just happened to his son wasn't a fight. It was an erasure. 8 seconds from opening bell to oblivion. 8 seconds to destroy everything Marvis prepared for. Everything Joe taught him. Everything the Frazier name represented. Joe's friends approach. Ask if he's okay. Ask if he needs anything. Ask about Marvis. Joe doesn't answer. Can't answer. Just sits there watching the ring clear. Watching his son get help to his corner. Watching the reality settle. Later, reporters will ask Joe about the fight, about his son's performance, about what happened. Joe will say, no comment. He'll never speak publicly about this night, never analyze it, never break it down, never discuss strategy or what went wrong or what Marvis could have done differently, because there's nothing to say, no analysis that matters, no strategy that would have changed it. Nothing Marvis could have done differently because 8 seconds isn't enough time to do anything except exist and then stop existing. In the weeks after, Marvis Frazier gives interviews. Talks about the fight, about what happened, about coming back. He says all the right things. Says he got caught. Says Tyson was better that night. Says he'll learn from it. Says he'll train harder. Says he'll get another chance. But something in his voice is different. Something in his eyes is different. Not fear exactly. Not trauma. Something else. Understanding. The kind of understanding that changes you. The kind you can't unknow once you know it. That he fights 4 more times. Wins 2. Loses 2. Retires at 29. Young for a heavyweight. Young for someone with his talent. Young for someone with his name. When people ask why he retired so early, he gives different answers. Says his heart wasn't in it anymore. Says he had other interests. Says he wanted to spend time with family. But once, years later, at a small gathering, someone asked him directly, was it because of Tyson? Did that fight end it for you? Marvis thinks for a long time, then says, I've been hit before, been hurt before, been knocked down before. But that was different. That wasn't boxing. That was something else. And once you feel that, once you understand what that is, it's hard to want to feel it again. It's hard to train knowing that's out there. That level of violence. That level of, I don't know what to call it. Superiority? Power? It's not even the right word. It's just that. He pauses. Then, my father fought Ollie. 3 times. Brutal fights. Legendary fights. But they were fights. Back and forth. Human. What happened to me in 8 seconds? That wasn't human. That was something that boxing created but can't control. And I didn't want to be in a ring with that again. Not for any amount of money. Not for any title. Not for anything. That's the most he ever says about it. The closest he comes to explaining why his career ended not with a loss, but with 8 seconds of understanding. Mike Tyson fights 58 professional fights in his career. Wins 50, 44 by knockout. Becomes the youngest heavyweight champion in history. Becomes one of the most famous athletes on the planet. Becomes a cultural phenomenon that transcends boxing. But among all those fights, all those knockouts, all those moments of violence and domination, the Marvis Frazier fight stands out. Not because it was the most technical. Not because it was the most important. Not because it changed anything about Tyson's trajectory. But because of what happened to the weigh-in. Because of what Marvis said. Because of the silence that followed. Because of what that silence meant. You don't scare me. My father fought Ollie. 24 hours later, 8 seconds of violence answered that statement. Answered it definitively. Answered it in a way that no words ever could. Tyson didn't scare Marvis at the weigh-in. Marvis was right about that. He wasn't scared. He was confident, ready, prepared, but 8 seconds later, Marvis understood something. Understood that fear before the fight doesn't matter. Preparation doesn't matter. Confidence doesn't matter. Legacy doesn't matter. What matters is what happens when the bell rings. What matters is the violence that follows.
What matters is the 8 seconds between thinking you're ready and learning you never were. Joe Frazier fought Ollie. 3 legendary fights. Thrilla in Manila. Historic. Brutal. Beautiful in their savagery. But Marvis didn't fight Ollie. Marvis fought Tyson. And that was different. Not better. Not worse. Just different. A different kind of violence. A different level of dominance. A different message sent. Ollie made you respect him. Made you acknowledge his greatness. Made you part of a dance, a fight, a war that both men survived and both men changed from. Tyson made you disappear. Made you irrelevant. Made you understand in 8 seconds that whatever you prepared for, whatever you thought you knew, whatever legacy you carried, it meant nothing. That's what the 8 seconds taught. That's what the silence at the weigh-in foreshadowed. That's what Joe Frazier knew, but couldn't say. That's what Marvis learned, but never wanted to learn. Some men are fighters. Some men are legends. Some men are history. And some men are forces of nature that show up for 8 seconds and change everything you thought you understood about violence and yourself and what it means to step into a ring with something that boxing created but can never quite contain. Mike Tyson, 1986, 8 seconds. That's all it took. That's all it ever took. The weigh-in was theater. The confidence was real. The legacy was true. But none of it mattered, because when the bell rang, history stopped talking. And violence spoke instead. 8 seconds. That's the answer to every question Marvis asked at that weigh-in. That's the response to every word spoken. That's the period at the end of a sentence. And Joe Frazier, sitting ringside, watching his son learn what his father already knew. Some fights you win. Some fights you lose. Some fights you survive. And some fights just end you. Not literally, but completely. In 8 seconds or less. That's what happened on July 26, 1986. That's what the silence meant. That's what Mike Tyson was deciding when Marvis invoked Ali's name. He was deciding. 8 seconds. That's all this needs. That's all this gets. And he was right.